welcome to another guitar chat with me, Drew James. Really good to have you with me today. What we're going to be talking about today is alternate tunings. We're going to be talking why, we're going to be talking how they can make your playing sound better, and we're also going to be talking how, with using them, you may never need to use a bar chord, which might be good news for some of you beginners out there. So what I just played there is something that is in an alternate tuning. It was actually a song that I wrote on an album not too long ago called Mind Games, and I was really pleased with that riff. It's written in something called Dadgab, which we'll get to very, very soon. Now remember, this is a Q&A, so I can already see the comments filling up on the right hand side. Really good to have a lot of you with me today. I can see Modest, I can see Joey, I can see Nintendo, I can see Guitar and Beatboxing World. Really good to have you with me. Feel free to ask your questions. If we dry up on the alternate tuning, I am going to go through every single one of your questions and answer them as best I can. So perhaps you're learning one of my songs at the moment and you've got a question about it, so it'd be really good to get those questions in. So before I get started on alternate tunings, I just want to say, have you been to my website recently? LearnGuitarInLondon.com. I'm just going to put a link in the chat because I revamped the homepage and I'd really love to get your guys' opinion on what the homepage looks like. I spent a little bit of time redesigning it myself. It was really sort of stuck in about 2 years ago. Homepages move really, really fast. Had an autoplay video, which was, to be honest, was annoying me. So God knows what it was doing with other people. And I really think it looks a lot cooler now. So have a look at it. Let me know what you think. Drop some comments in the description. I'd love to know what you guys think. It took me a few hours of crafting away. Okay, so we're going to get into alternate tunings. And just before we do, if you've got a real burning question, then feel free to donate a few dollars to the channel using Super Chat. Super Chat just means that your question gets put right to the top and I will definitely answer it. And I believe a sound gets played, although no one's donated yet. So please use Super Chat if you've got a burning question. So alternate tunings. Let's start with perhaps the easiest. Now, a little disclaimer before we get into this, guys. With alternate tunings, you need to really know the names of your tunings, the names of your open strings, because you could easily start snapping a string as you're doing this, so just be careful. So what's an alternate tuning? Well, first of all, let's look at what is a standard tuning. Standard tuning, or the Nashville tuning, is E, A, D, G, B, E. So that's the names of the notes that the strings are tuned to. I use Eddie 8 Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie. I've heard someone mention something about the Easter Bunny, something about Acid Dealer. Everyone's kind of got their own ones. So I presume you've probably got your own that you could drop in the comments. There's been some pretty funny ones that I've seen over the years. Thanks for some of the questions, guys. Great to have so many of you watching. I will get to them very soon. So standard tuning is basically what when you buy a guitar, when you start learning guitar, your guitar is tuned to that. E, A, D, G, B, E. So to get you started on the first alternate tuning, and the first one that I got started with, I think it was because I was a bit too scared to change any of the other tunings in case I couldn't get it back. But the first one I did was I took the thickest string and instead of it being tuned to E, I loosened it until it was dropped down to D. I'm just going to show you something really cool here. Have a look at this. So I think you'll be able to see this if I hover this. So can you see it's probably upside down, but this Faith has a tuner built into one of the volume knobs here. So it's really, really cool. I think you can probably see that, although I can imagine it's upside down. So I really wanted to show that because I haven't shown that to anyone yet. So taking your thickest string and quite simply loosening it until it says D rather than E. And I'm just going to tune my thinnest back up. So what does that give you? Well, it gives you the ability to press down two strings and get yourself a power chord. So that's one of the cool things that it does. This tuning for me actually came about through, do you remember nu metal, Limp Bizkit, System of a Down, that sort of thing? It was a very common tuning to have back then, and I was getting into guitar and playing guitar a little bit more then, so that's where that tuning came from. I always think that this tuning is good, and if you start doing some of your standard chords, so for example on A, if you include the D string, the E string, sounds a little different, right? And then E chord as well, D chord as well sounds quite nice. But for me, this tuning, it's good for, I associate it more with metal and hard rock, because as I said, you can power chord a lot faster with just a flattened finger. Normally with power chords we have to be index and ring, but it is a bit more useful. Okay, so that is drop D. Okay, that's the first one that I want to take you through. The next one is the one that I actually started with. So this is called Dad Gad. Why is it called Dad Gad? Have a think about it first of all. You've got D for the D, A, which is the normal that we normally tune to, 8, Dynamite, that's your dad. Then the Gad, G. This B string is going to be tuned down to A. And finally the bottom string is also tuned down to D. So you get Dad Gad. So that means loosening your top string and your bottom string, and the B string, you want to be taking it down, loosening it as well. So you're at A. And there you go, there's your Dad Gad. So I'm going to take a moment to explain something about alternate tunings. Why? Why bother? Well, they make your guitar sound different, and they might make you think about playing something in a way that you wouldn't have normally have done. And they can be very good for anyone who's creative, who likes to create their own music. A little bit of alternate tuning, and that's exactly what I did with this Dad Gad tuning. So you can hear that it does make the guitar sound different, right? It gives it a different edge to it that you wouldn't normally have had. So that's Dad Gad. Little story about Dad Gad. I used to live in a flat in London with 5 other people, and it was a tiny place, and I lived with a lot of Antipodeans, 2 Australians and 2 New Zealanders, and then there was my now wife as well. So we were in a tiny little place, and one of my flatmates was a really big fan of acoustic guitar. He'd actually been playing longer than me, and he introduced this tuning to me. He was really into his blues playing as well. He introduced this tuning to me, and it just blew my mind. I couldn't believe how good it sounded. So I started tinkering away with it, and I've really got him to thank. So Thurston, thank you for showing me my first alternate tuning. And I really liked the sound of that. I thought it sounded great. So that's where Dad Gad came from me. And I remember writing a song, although I can't remember what the name of the song was now that I wrote that was in that tuning. So that is Dad Gad. Okay, let's have a look next at, in fact, I'll go through some of your questions and then I'll go to the other 2 because I can see the comments filling up here. So, hey Drew, I've got a Marshall G10 MK2 practice amp. What do you think of them? Bookload, I don't know, never used them. I know that Marshall are big in the amp scene, and I used to own a Marshall Soloist, which was fantastic, so I'm sure it's absolutely fine. And when it comes to amps, all it comes down to really is how much noise do you want to make. You don't necessarily, if you're just practicing and not playing gigs, then a tiny little practice amp is absolutely fine if that's good for your needs. John Ray said, I like your guitar. Thank you. This is a Furch Blood Moon series. You can check them out. Modesta said open D tuning. Yes, you got that spot on. Oh, in fact, open D, we're about to come to that next. So Gaurav, how you doing? What are the best strings for acoustic? Armando, I've been through a few strings in my time, but I keep coming back to Martin Lights or Extra Light, depending on. Martin Light acoustic, they've got a red front cover on them, and they're the strings I've always used. I did use some NanoWebs for a while that were quite expensive and weren't supposed to fade as quickly, but I found that they actually faded a little bit quicker. Just in my experience, I always prefer the Martins. How to give feel in my own music? Well, that is a bit of a tricky one to say, Guitar Bits. I would start by looking at things like dynamics. So instead of whenever you're strumming a song, you're keeping it sort of one volume, you might sort of think, keeping things a little bit quieter. And then so bringing up volume, loud and quiet. I would look at that initially for the feel of the music. Ultimately, it's very much up to what you're doing with your own sound. It's really hard for me to answer that. Dina said, should I get a bass? I don't know. Should you? You tell me. Bass playing is a lot of fun. In fact, I was in a guitar shop today and I saw a wonderful, probably about 20, 30-year-old Thunderbird bass, and it was just looked exquisite. It's £2,500, expensive, but it was great. I've never really played a lot of bass. I've played with bassists, and I think the biggest challenge that bassists have is finding a good drummer to lock in the groove with, but also not overplaying those strings, so not pulling too hard and causing vibrations against the fretboard. That's one thing I've noticed with amateur style bassists. They do a lot of that. Hey, I have some problems with changing chords. Any tips, Sandra? Yes, Sandra. The best video that I've ever done when it comes to changing chords is if you type in how to change chords faster, Drew, into YouTube. There is a great video there that shows you essentially this technique. You take the two chords that you're finding difficult. So let's say it's A and D. You strum the A. You then put your fingers over the strings like this, closed, mute, so strum anyway, then make your D. Then do the same process, cover the strings, mute, then make your A. Mute, D, mute, A, mute, D. And you repeat that process, and what it does is it reinforces the muscle memory in your fingers, so your fingers are making that chord multiple times, because to get good at changing chords faster, the chords need to be instantaneous on your fingertips. You need to no longer think about them, and they need to go down in an order of a shape, so like this for a D rather than 1, 2, 3. And the only way for you to do that is sheer repetition, and that process that I've just talked about basically creates the repetition a lot faster. Okay, cool. I have a big problem with picking. Any tips? It's almost as if I've paid you to make that comment, because the latest video that I have made, guys, have you seen it? My latest upload. Look at the first upload that I've done, the latest video. I'll just put the link in the video description so that you can see it. This is one of the best tips that I have to help you with picking. So check it out. Essentially, it's called anchor pointing. So you keep your finger anchored to the body of the guitar and you play accordingly from there. All right, so that's a really, really useful tip. It means that you're staying close to the strings, and by how much your little finger bends, you know roughly what string you're on. So that's a really great tip. Please check that one out. Make some more videos of fingerstyle tutorials from Johnny. Yeah, always will be. So that's going to happen. Sinister Gates, how you doing? You taught me how to play my first song. Do I want to know by the Arctic Monkeys? Fantastic. Good. Where's my Furch guitar? My Furch guitar is resting behind me in a case. I was a bit concerned about it because I'm in a room where the temperature changes a lot, and I don't know if you know this, but that's not too good for guitars. You don't want the temperature changing on and off, because it can sometimes change the wood and warp the wood. So I've put it away for a bit, just keep it warm and safe. I really, really like it. I'm still playing it all the time, but I'm really getting into using this Furch Blood Moon at the moment, so I've just been hammering this. But don't worry, that Furch, you will see it again. John said tuning. Okay, my Court has a tuner too. Yes, awesome. This is actually part of something called a Fishman system. This one's called the Fishman Inc. And the Fishman system, they don't just put it in Faith guitars, it's put in numerous different electroacoustics, so maybe yours is something similar. Strange Things is, do you know Marty Schwartz? Well, I don't know him personally, but of course I know him, I've heard of him. He was doing internet lessons before there was even the internet. Someone said, turn down the mic pickup, it's distorting a lot. Is it okay? So maybe that's just as it's coming through the microphone. You can listen to me speaking all night. Thank you, that's very kind. Have you ever played electric guitar? From Connor. Yes, I do play electric guitar. I don't play it very much in my lessons. I like to keep my channel purely about acoustic. That's my heart and soul, the acoustic. I've started learning on the acoustic, a Yamaha F310, which, by the way, any beginners out there looking for a good beginner guitar, Yamaha F310, type it into Google, check it out. It's a very, very good acoustic guitar. I started learning with acoustic, and I did play electric when I was in bands, and I still do get inspired by electric, especially sometimes wanted just to kick on some distortion and rock out. But I'm always drawn back to where my home is, where my heart is, which is acoustic, fingerstyle, sing and strum, and more recently creating fingerstyle instrumentals that you guys can learn out there that are beginner friendly. So that's the question about electric. The last electric guitar lesson I did was Sway? No, not Sway. Oh, it's gonna bug me. That was the last electric guitar lesson I did. Maybe you know what it is. Maybe you know what it is out there. Sam. That way, it sounds like the word Sam, but it's not Sam. I'm sure you're going to put the comment in there for me. Someone said, where is your other Furch? I've just explained that. It's just behind me. Can you please play a little electric? Nope, not right now. Drop D tuning sounds perfect in some more dramatic and melancholic songs. I love that tune. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Sounds great. Give it a go. A bit of Drop D. Drop D is a good beginner's open tuning to use. We're going to get into something called open tunings in just a minute. Hello sir, wish is a very good evening. I hope you will be alright. Just want to ask you, how can I play melody and chords at the same time on guitar? Hope you answer this question, rolling some notes. How can you play melody and chords at the same time? So you've got to understand that the melody you're trying to work out, if you can't physically make those chords so that you can include the melodic note in them, then it's going to be pretty difficult to do that. So the step back from that is to use the bass note or the root note of the chord instead. So for example, I'm in drop here, but let's say your E was your root note and your melodic note was, let's go for the one below just because it's in standard and I'll be able to do it easier. E and A was the note that you wanted. So in this particular case, this is your bass note, this is your melodic note. And you could pluck those two strings together to get your melodic note. And if you had another note, like something like that, you can see that this bass note, this E, is ringing through. But to be honest with you, that question is very broad. But I will say this, I am very excited to be working on a course that's going to teach you how to create your own fingerstyle arrangements, which is basically what Rolling Stone's getting at. But that's all I've got for you right now. Okay, Pepper said, hi Drew, how you doing? Can you play Avicii Broken Arrows? Thanks for that suggestion. Don't know that song. Can you play Perfect with only tabs and chords? Yes, you could. Hey, I'm getting better at the F chord. Thanks to your advice. Cheers, keep up the good work. Cheers, Kev. I remember you came in and saw us last time we were doing this, so fantastic. Really appreciate that. That's good to know. It's always great to know that I'm helping people. One of the biggest buzzes I get from my job is knowing that there are people out there who are listening and implementing what I'm teaching them, and it's making a difference to them. That's perhaps the best thing about what I do. So do let me know if I've helped you out. Sale, yes, well done. Thank you, Mind Free Gaming. Yeah, Sale, that was it. Cool. Hey man, nice to see you. What do you suggest on a guitar player who wants to sing and play should do daily? By Henry Coldren. Okay, really good question, Henry. First of all, set yourself an easy sing and strum project. My advice is Let It Be by the Beatles. That's a really good start sing and strum song. Strip down the rhythm so that it's just to 2 basic strums. It's not going to sound good because I'm dropped. But keep it simple strums. And to start with, make sure that you can do that simple strumming whilst humming the melody to Let It Be. If you can't do that and your guitar's going wrong and the rhythm's going wrong, then you're just not ready to sing and play. You need to do that more often. Make sure that the muscle memory is in and that you're no longer really thinking about the guitar. It's a little bit like learning to drive, for those of you who may have learned to drive. When you start learning to drive, it feels like there's so much you've got to do. You've got to put your foot on the accelerator, you've got to change gear, you've got to use the clutch, you've got to check your mirrors. And then over time, you can do all that without even thinking about it anymore. It just happens and it's subconscious. And then you find yourself singing along to the radio whilst driving. But when you were first learning, there was no way you could do that. And it's exactly the same with playing the guitar. It needs to be subconscious, at least the easy elements. So keep it beginner, Let It Be, down strums. That's my advice. Then start humming on the down strum so that the singing isn't right in the front, in the forefront, so you can still hear the guitar. And finally, then start singing a little bit louder whilst keeping the strumming simple. If you can do all that, then start making the strumming a little more embellished. Really hope that helps, Henry. Give that a go. Can you do fingerstyle What Hurts the Most tutorial? Who's that by, David? Please put the artist in. Someone said I'm looking sharp, thank you. And that's it. I think I've got to the end. Cool. So let's have a look at the next tuning, because we've still got a few more minutes and I do want to get into some more tunings for you. Now, this next tuning is called Open D. So what that means is you're tuning all the strings on your guitar to the same notes as a D chord. Now, a D chord contains a D, an A, and an F sharp. So you're going to take your thickest string and you're going to tune it down to D. You're going to take your A string, and are you going to do anything to it? No, because a D has an A note in it. So you leave the A string as it is. The next note is a D. Are you going to do anything to it? No, because a D chord has a D in it, as you've just learned. The G. Are you going to do anything to it? Is there a G in a D chord? No, there's not. So yes, you are going to do something to it. You're going to loosen it until it says F sharp. So you're going to loosen the string and look for F with the hash symbol next to it. The B string. Is there a B in D? No, there isn't. So you're going to loosen that string and turn it into an A. And finally, the E string. Is there an E in D? No, there's not. So you're going to loosen it to D. There is your Open D. Now, I've got a great story about Joni Mitchell for Open D. Joni Mitchell, when she was writing songs, didn't really like learning all these chords that we have to learn as beginners. So she was very clever. She thought to herself, okay, I'm just going to tune my guitar strings so that they make a chord when I strum it open. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to create mini bars to create open sounding chords. Okay, so this is D. You go one up the musical alphabet, E sharp, F, so on and so forth. Okay, so she was very, very clever, because Open D sounds great by itself. Not strumming anything. Fifth fret button. Third fret. Okay, so Open D is brilliant, right? It's a really, really cool tuning. So take the time to drop your strings down. If you want a reminder of what those strings are, it's D, G, D, G, B, sorry, F sharp, A and D. I'll just check I've got that. D, A, D, F sharp, A, and D. That gives you open D. So open D is a really fun tuning, and there are some cool little shapes you can use. But the best thing about it is, I think, with fingerstyle, because if in doubt, you've always got the open strings to come back to. So there you go, that's open D. I really suggest you give open D a try. It's also great for, you don't necessarily have to learn the open chords anymore, because this is open D, and as you go up the alphabet, E, D, D sharp, E, F sharp, D, you're playing major chords. Alright, so that's open D. Okay, next, last one, we're going to go for some open G. Now open G, you need to know the notes. By the way, do you realize now why it's called an open tuning? Because it's using open chord notes. Okay, I hope you understand that. When you do an open chord, when you do a chord, they're comprised of notes. Usually, if it's if it is a major chord, only 3 notes. There's only 3 notes in a major triad. So, G. What notes do we have in a G? We have a G, obviously. We have a B, and we have a D. So, how does that impact on our tuning? So, the thickest string, we can leave that as D, because the E string we need to tune down. The A, that can stay as, that can be moved down to a G. So that's the root note of the chord. Just bear with me. The next string, D, that can stay the same. The next string, it's a G, so we're going to tune. I'm going to tune it back up from open D to G. The next string, normally it's tuned to B. Is there a B in a G chord? Yes, there is. This note here is a B. So I'm going to tune that back up. And finally, the last string is also tuned to D. So there is your open G. Pretty cool, huh? So that's the open G chord. Once again, you can do the same thing with your bass. It will sound cool, and it will give your guitar a slightly different edge. Some chord shapes you can use. Use an A-7 style chord shape. Move that around. That sounds sweet, right? Use an A-shaped chord. Slide that around. And finally use an A-minor shaped chord. There you go, something a little bit different for this week's guitar chat. Alternate tunings. I really hope that's been useful. Okay, if you're enjoying learning about alternate tunings, then my advice is have a look at this book, which is by a chap called Martin Simpson. This is where I've learned a lot about my open tunings and chord shapes and things that sound very creative. You can get this off any popular book site, just in case I get into trouble for saying their name. But this is where I got it from, and it's been great. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been a real learning curve. Martin's a folk artist on the UK scene. He does a lot of folk music, traditional music, and it's just been great. It's his approach, both theory and the songs that are included, that I've really enjoyed. So check out his book if you have enjoyed alternate tuning. Guys, I'm just going to quickly go through some more of your comments, and then we're going to wrap up there. So I can't find the right singing pattern with your tutorial. You need to be a little bit more specific about what you're talking about there. When you are going to do another fingerstyle lesson, be patient, it will happen. So Dutch G House, this genius. I presume you mean the alternate tuning. That's cool. Can you do more into depth with that? I would love to play that. Holy crap, it sounds beautiful. I presume you're talking about the alternate tuning. As I said, just look at open D tuning, open G tuning. The tunings we went through were the beginner's one that I started my journey with, which is drop D, where you just take the thicker string and drop it down. The next one I used was DAD-GAD, D-A-D, G-A-D. That sounds really nice. That's where I wrote a couple of songs with that. And then more recently, I've been getting into open tunings, open D and open G. If you know what a D chord is made of, those notes, you just change your strings to those notes. The same with open G. Okay, so give that a try. That will be useful. As a beginner, after I've learnt the open chords and bar chords, what should I work on? My advice would be to work on your rhythm hand. Start playing rhythm as much as possible. Play to metronomes and keep on playing. If you've got that far, well done. That's absolutely fantastic. Nice little jam session, right? I'm glad you enjoyed it. Very good. So, Filthy Naffa said, oh no, sorry, I've read that one. Christoph Adler said, hi from Czech Republic. Hello, Bob the Bob. Hey Drew, super huge fan. I've learned like 6 of your songs from your tutorials. Thank you, Bob the Bob. That's fantastic. Let's see if there's any more that I can get to. I'm still trying to sort out the scrolling here on YouTube. Good evening. Hang on, so I've got to that. Just bear with me. I'm still learning the scrolling here. There we go, that button. And Nelson said, how much do I charge for a lesson? Nelson, unfortunately, you're a bit out of luck there. I no longer teach one-to-one lessons anymore. If you want, you can still get one-to-one tuition with me, but it's all done through premiumstudentarea.com. So if you have a look at this link, let me just send that over to you. If you check that out, that is where all of my premium courses are. That's where you can get feedback on your own playing by submitting your own videos, and I will watch them, tell you how to practice, what to practice, what songs you should work on next, etc. And there's also live webinars. I'm doing one straight after this webinar that I'm doing with you. And there is also group learning. And with lifetime option, you do get Skype lessons with me. So check that out if you're interested in taking your learning that further and you're looking for more support with online learning rather than sort of the whole random YouTube video lesson thing. So gonna jam Let It Be tonight. Good. So I'm glad that's useful for you. Rascal Flatts was the name of that there. Okay, thank you, David. That is it for another guitar chat, guys. Thank you so much. Keep on playing. If you want to be notified of when I'm doing lives, then just click the little bell icon that's underneath the video right now. That way, next time I'm live, which by the way I'm doing at 5 PM GMT time every Saturday, you'll be notified if you click that bell icon. Cool. Keep on playing and namaste. See you again.